For more than 3 decades, Iran was ruled by one man, Ali Khamenei. He was the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic, the most powerful figure in the country. Presidents came and went, parliaments changed, governments reshuffled, but Khamenei remained until suddenly everything changed. Following a devastating wave of strikes linked to the United States and Israel, Iran's longtime ruler was killed, triggering the biggest leadership crisis in Iran since 1989. And within days, the Islamic Republic announced its decision. Iran had a new supreme leader, not a famous cleric, not a veteran politician, but the son of the man who had ruled for decades, a mysterious figure who spent most of his life behind the scenes, a man few Iranians had ever even seen in public. His name is Mojtaba Khamenei. Tonight we ask, who is this man? Why did Iran choose him? Is this the beginning of a new dynasty in Tehran? Or is the real power somewhere else entirely? And most importantly, what does this mean for the future of Iran and the Middle East? But before we begin, if you enjoy deep historical documentaries about geopolitics, revolutions, and world power, subscribe to the channel and join our growing community. Because here we don't just follow the news, we explain the history behind it. The man in the shadows. For decades, Mojtaba Khamenei was one of the most powerful men in Iran. Yet almost nobody outside the country knew who he was. He rarely appeared in public. He never held elected office. He never gave speeches to crowds. But inside the corridors of power in Tehran, many insiders believed that Mojtaba was already running the system behind the scenes. According to analysts, he acted as a gatekeeper to his father, controlling who could meet the supreme leader and who could not. That position gave him immense influence. In Iran's political system, access is power, and Mojtaba controlled access. Some intelligence officials even described him as a mini supreme leader. But to understand how he reached this point, we have to go back to where his story began. Born into revolution, Mojtaba Khamenei was born in 1969 in the holy city of Mashhad. At the time, Iran was still ruled by a king, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi. But the country was already boiling with revolution. Just 10 years later, in 1979, the monarchy collapsed during the Iranian Revolution. The revolution was led by the exiled cleric Ruhollah Khomeini, and Mojtaba's father, Ali Khamenei, was one of his loyal followers. When the revolution succeeded, Iran transformed into an Islamic Republic, ruled by clerics instead of kings. Ironically, the entire revolution was built around rejecting hereditary rule. The Shah's monarchy was abolished because revolutionaries believed power should not pass from father to son. That principle would later become one of the biggest controversies surrounding Mojtaba's rise. But first came another defining moment in his life: war. The war that shaped a generation. In 1980, Iran was invaded by its neighbor Iraq. The conflict became known as the Iran-Iraq War. It lasted 8 brutal years. Nearly 1 million people were killed. Entire cities were destroyed. And an entire generation of young Iranians grew up under bombardment. Mojtaba Khamenei was a teenager at the time. Like many young men, he reportedly served with forces connected to the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The war shaped the worldview of Iran's ruling elite. It created a leadership deeply suspicious of the outside world, and it strengthened one institution above all others: the Revolutionary Guards. Today, the IRGC controls missiles, intelligence services, foreign militias, and huge parts of Iran's economy. In many ways, it is the real power structure behind the Islamic Republic, and Mojtaba Khamenei would eventually build deep relationships with it. The religious path. After the war, Mojtaba disappeared from public life. Years later, he resurfaced in the city of Qom. Qom is not just any city. It is the intellectual heart of Shiite Islam. Thousands of clerics study there. Many of Iran's most powerful religious figures come from its seminaries, and there Mojtaba began studying theology. But his entry into religious training was unusual. Most clerics begin their studies as teenagers. Mojtaba reportedly started around the age of 30. Even today, he is considered only a mid-ranking cleric, holding the title Hojatul Islam. And that creates a problem, because Iran's constitution says the supreme leader should be a top religious authority. Technically, Mojtaba isn't, but Iran has bent the rules before. In 1989, after the death of Ayatollah Khamenei, the country chose Mojtaba's father, Ali Khamenei, even though many scholars said he lacked the necessary religious rank. History, it seems, has repeated itself. The election that exposed him for years, Mojtaba Khamenei, remained invisible until 2005. That year, Iran elected a new president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Ahmadinejad was a hardline populist who promised to challenge the West. But rumors quickly spread that the election had powerful backers behind the scenes. And one name appeared again and again, Mojtaba Khamenei. Then came the 2009 presidential election. When Ahmadinejad claimed victory again, millions of Iranians flooded the streets in protest. The movement became known as the Green Movement. It was the largest protest in Iran since the 1979 revolution. Demonstrators accused the government of election fraud. Security forces responded with force, and once again, Mojtaba Khamenei was accused of helping coordinate the crackdown. From that moment on, he was no longer just a shadow. He was a symbol of the regime's hardline faction. The power of the Revolutionary Guards behind Iran's political system lies a powerful reality. The country has two militaries. One is the regular army. The other, far more influential, is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The IRGC was created after the revolution to protect the regime itself. Not just the country, the regime. Over the decades, it grew into one of the most powerful military economic networks in the Middle East. It controls ballistic missiles, intelligence networks, proxy militias across the region, massive business empires, and Mojtaba Khamenei built strong ties with its commanders. Many analysts believe this relationship is the real reason he was chosen as supreme leader. Because during crises, the Revolutionary Guards often become the deciding force in Iranian politics, and according to insiders, the IRGC currently holds enormous influence over the country's leadership structure, adding a controversial succession. The decision to choose Mojtaba was historic. Iran had just turned the Islamic Republic into something dangerously close to a dynasty. That's deeply ironic, because the revolution that created the system was meant to destroy hereditary rule. Yet now power had passed from father to son. Some clerics reportedly opposed the decision, others supported it. In the end, the body responsible for choosing Iran's leader, the Assembly of Experts, announced that Mojtaba had been selected in what it described as a decisive vote. But outside Iran, reactions were very different. Global reactions, the leadership change immediately triggered international reactions. In Washington, Donald Trump criticized the appointment and suggested the new leader might not last long. In contrast, governments like Russia and China signaled support for the new leadership in Tehran. For them, Iran remains a key geopolitical partner. But perhaps the most dangerous reaction came from Israel. Israeli officials openly warned that any new Iranian leader could become a military target, meaning Mojtaba Khamenei now governs under a constant threat of assassination. Division or strategy? Inside Iran, something even more intriguing is happening. There appears to be a split between political factions. Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, recently made a surprising statement. He apologized to neighboring countries and suggested Iran wanted peace in the region. But almost immediately afterward, Iranian forces launched new drone and missile attacks. So what is really happening? Some analysts believe the divide is real. Moderates want diplomacy. We hardliners want confrontation. Others believe it is a deliberate strategy. One faction plays the diplomat, the other plays the warrior. Together, they give Iran maximum leverage. Peace talks on one side, military pressure on the other. The future of Iran. Now Mojtaba Khamenei faces a monumental challenge. He is leading a country of over 90 million people during a time of war, economic crisis, international sanctions, and growing domestic unrest. Many analysts doubt whether he has the authority of his father. Others say he may rely heavily on the Revolutionary Guards to maintain control. Either way, Iran is entering a new chapter, one that could define the future of the Middle East. Final subscription, CT. If you found this story fascinating and want more deep historical explainers about world power and geopolitics, make sure to subscribe to the channel.